was after watching that debate and how gentlemanly you were towards David Hogg, I was like, well, maybe he is sort of a decent guy, and I'm sure he is. But I went and started following him on Twitter, and oh my God, it ruined my Twitter feed. And I blame you for making him seem like a reasonable human being, because and we can talk about this a little bit, but when it comes to, and I don't know if he's trying to set himself up for a run at office. It certainly seems that way. He's getting into the groundwork and figuring out all those things. Maybe we'll see him try to run in a few years, but it's scary if that's the case, because even after Lily said what she said, I mean, I don't know how anyone can sit there and defend that position anymore.
I can answer that. I can tell you how they can defend the position. They have to be intentionally obtuse and misleading with the data. They have to present you these horrific and thankfully extremely rare things like mass shootings and school shootings. They have to put that in your head, right? That image has to be in your head. And then they have to tell you gun violence is on the rise. And when they say that, they want you to think of school shootings, mass shootings, serial killers, these horrific violent incidents. What they don't tell you is that gun violence, what you would actually consider gun violence, is dropping and has been dropping for quite some time. The thing that, if you look, and I talked about this in the debate, there are 5 things that are considered gun violence. You've got homicides, which have been on a decades-long trend of dropping. It goes up every, it'll go up a year or so and then come back down. 2024 is slated to be, if the trend continues for this year, it's going to be the lowest murder rate on record. So
which you would not get from the news. You would think it's higher than ever before.
Yeah. No, okay. From either side either, because right now you've got the left saying, oh, guns are bad. Look at all this violence. And you got the right saying Joe Biden's making everything less safe. The reality is, for the past 50 or 60 years, gun deaths, or 40 to 50 years, deaths, homicides, including homicides with guns, has been slowly dropping over time. So there's the one thing. Then you've got justified shootings, which that's actually a good thing. That's someone who is not a victim because they were able to use their gun, but that's been dropping as the violent crime rate has been dropping. You have police shootings, which some are good, some are bad, but they've all been dropping. That's been dropping as well. Then you've got accidents, which have reduced by 90% in the last 40 years. 90%. And this is at a time when licensing, fewer and fewer states are requiring licensing. So if there was ever an argument that licensing was necessary to keep us safe from accidents with guns, that's being destroyed. So those are the 4 things that we would say, okay, yeah, I can see that as, or actually the first 3 would be violence, because it's people actually intending to shoot people. Sure. But, murders are dropping, justified homicides are dropping, police shootings are dropping, and accidents are dropping. The only one that is rising, the only thing that they're able to say to be able to say gun violence is rising, is suicides. And that had actually been dropping for a while, but over the past, I think 6 or 7 years, and then especially after the lockdowns, that has been rising. And so what they're doing is they're taking people who, for a variety of reasons, just reached a point where they didn't feel like they could be here anymore. And they are lumping these people who are not here to defend themselves against it. They're lumping them in with murderers. And they're doing it. The only reason they're doing it is so that they can say gun violence is on the rise. Because if they instead they said, the murder rate's dropping and there's way more accidents than there's ever been before, or way fewer accidents than there's ever been before. But, guns are kind of bad, guns are bad. That would not be a good argument. Like, very few people are going to take that. So instead they say gun violence is on the rise. And I kind of headed that off at the pass at the beginning of the debate, and it made it a lot harder for him.
Well, I mean, and I just want to clarify, did you get that from Wikipedia?
Everything that I've ever learned.
Yes.
If it's not on Wikipedia, it's not true. That was the one time for the most part, we engaged each other in good faith. I mean, he ribbed me saying you're trying to sell guns. I ribbed him saying you're the best gun salesperson ever. But that was the one time when I'm like, really, like this is what we're doing.
I would have failed in class if I had shown a Wikipedia.
They would have kicked me out. Now, if I had shown up with nothing but anecdotes and my personal feelings about how safe Europe is, that would get me aced. But this Wikipedia listing, absolutely not. It was so funny that he said that, and especially because I'm like, and I interrupted him and I shouldn't have, but I'm thinking, I did that to make it easier, because what I was going to do was bring the bibliography of all of the different like national, there's like I think on one of the charts there's like 48 countries listed or something like that. I had all of that, but there was a Wikipedia listing that had compiled all of that. And so for the sake of like making it easier to read, yes, if I were in Harvard debate class, I'd have brought my bibliography. What did he bring?
He was jealous. That's what it was. He was jealous because he didn't bring anything. And he said that at the beginning. He's like, oh, I wish we knew we could bring graphs.
I don't have any charts. It was weird. I mean, we actually had, so we had a the kids, the Dartmouth Political Union kids, and me and David actually had a Zoom meeting maybe like 2 or 3 weeks before the debate, just to go over the ground rules, see if either of us had questions. And at the time, we both said, like, we want to have a debate where it's going to potentially get heated or whatever, but I'm not going to tell you that you're trying to disarm me so the tyrants can take over. And he's like, yeah, and I don't want to say that you want children to die, or that you only care about the. I said, exactly. We're going to do so. And for the most part, it was that. But he knew this. I told him, I said, I'm going to bring facts. I talk about this stuff a lot. And when I do debates, I make sure that I'm very prepared. So he knew I was going to come in like prepared. I don't know if he just decided I'm just going to do the opposite or what, but I mean, whatever he did, it worked beautifully for him.
It was a good lesson for David. Hopefully the next time he decides to debate someone, he does a little extra research, because like you said, I mean, it was a very emotional plea.